Flipping it up and out. Bogues! A recent block by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get Rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bows, the basketball series. Good to have everyone back again. A lot to get through today. Crazy week of NBA trades, NBL finals kicking in. We've got our Final Four. And it's Super Bowl Monday, and we're both not watching, Pro.
Yeah, Bogues. It's one of those things, man. I've been slacking all year in the NFL. You know, I just said, you know what, fuck it. I had some sessions tonight, and you know, I'll watch some 5-minute highlight of it, and you know, watch people argue for another 38 minutes, and you know, so fuck that. I'm good. I'm tired of arguing, man.
Looks like a good one. I got on in the background. At time of recording, it's 35 all with 1 minute and 35 seconds left. So it could go to overtime, which would be interesting. Yeah. But very high scoring for the Super Bowl. Anyway, we're not here to talk football. Let's get rolling. A lot to get through, especially with the trade stuff. So without further ado, let's get on to our teams of the week. I'm going to go the Milwaukee Bucks. Whenever you win 10 straight, Pro, you got to get team of the week, even though it was over the course of a couple of weeks. Playing really good basketball, solid week for them. They beat the Lakers, the Clippers, Portland, and Miami. So Lakers kind of crappy, Clippers are solid, Portland are okay, and Miami are very solid. So I think four good wins. Middleton's playing back into form slowly. They're bringing him off the bench after his rehab with I think it was his knee, wasn't it? Coming back from that, and he's slowly playing into form. He's key for them. He provides a legitimate second scoring option after Giannis. Just provides a bit more calm, good mid-range game, can knock down the three, can really go on some heaters with some points in a hurry. So he's going to be huge, and I kind of always said that they're going to look to have him peak in, March, April. There's no reason for him to be playing 35 minutes right now, and I think they're doing it perfectly. They're still second in the East with a former All-Star in Middleton coming off the bench and playing a little bit of minutes. I love that. Going to be a question of who gets taken out of the rotation for them. I guess when he's fully healthy and starting, probably going to be a fight for Grayson Allen, Connaughton, and Ingles. It'll be those three that probably play for those remaining minutes. So that'll be interesting to see who takes those. I mean, Joey's been playing pretty well off the bench. Grayson Allen's been inconsistent, but had some real big games for him, especially from the three-point line, volume three-point shooter, and Connaughton's just really solid for him. So it'll be interesting to see what take they go, Pro. But the Milwaukee Bucks get the nod this week for me, Pro.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I had the same. I mean, they're playing great. Middleton really isn't playing great, but like you said, he's coming into form. A lot more isolation.
He played well last game. I think he had 20. He had 20 and 20 minutes last game, so he's starting to get a little bit better. Yeah,
I think he's averaging like 18 over the last 4, and he's getting up there, no doubt about it. Not shooting the ball well yet, but he's scoring for sure. I think they're going to be fine, and then we'll talk about the trade stuff that they picked up. But I do think that like having an extra ball handling Joey coming off, starting with Holiday would be great for them. But I think Ingles is good coming off the bench, with Connaughton, Crowder, Connaughton, gives them sort of like, gives them ball handling, gives them toughness, gives them shot making off the bench. Connaughton has been inconsistent, shooting the ball, shooting the three. He's average shooting it. I think Joey's really coming into his own with that. And Wes Matthews has been up and down as well. I think they're really good. They're a really good team. They move the ball. They're big. They defend. They can shoot it. They can score. They got multiple guys. It's really hard to like just key in on Giannis or Middleton or what have you. I mean, they just spread you out. They could shoot it. They could guard. They move the ball. They pull for each other. It's a good group. And Budenholzer looks like he's 1,000 years old in that bench. I mean, his eyes are bloodshot every time you see him. It's like old Yella at the end. Like you wanted this old Johnny to come out with a shotgun and put him out of his fucking misery. But like he looks miserable on that sideline, man. I just think he wants to win so bad, and it's an interesting group. I think them in Boston hopefully will be the Eastern Conference Finals. I would love to see it. But I agree. I got Milwaukee as well.
And I think they can they're probably the best suited team to push Boston, to be honest with you. I mean, people might say Philly, but I think Milwaukee, Boston in a conference finals would be a hell of a series. Every chance that goes 6-7 games, just a lot of cross matches and mismatches in different positions. You know, you got Middleton and guys that aren't known for guarding, probably having to guard a Tatum or a Brown. And then on the other side, who to guards Giannis, you know. So I think it's going to provide a really unique matchup, and hopefully they're both healthy and we can see that. So looking forward to that one. All right, my team of the week, that is no good. I got to give it to the Spurs, man. Whenever you lose, and once again, it's not just the last week, but you lose 12 straight. I mean, a storied franchise like that. And I just pulled up their starting lineup from one of their last games, Pro, and I don't even know who a few of the guys are. Maybe I'm showing my age, but they're starting at guard Malaki Branham, who I have no idea. I don't know too much about him, going to be honest. Josh Richardson, we know who he is. Jacob Pirtle, Bates Diop, Keldon Johnson, and then their bench.
And Richardson's gone too. They just traded him.
Yeah, he's gone now. Yeah, he's gone. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Roby off the bench, Doug McDermott, Zach Collins, Blake Wesley, and Stanley Johnson. That roster would could struggle in the G League at times, Pro. They're not looking good. As it stands right now, Houston, you better watch out because the Spurs are nipping at your ankles. The Spurs are 14-43. The Houston Rockets are 13-43. They're half a game away from Victor sweepstakes, Pro. So you got to give it to them. They look like absolute shit. They're in ultimate tank mode. I get it. But to have them lose and the way they've lost the last 12, Pro, that's probably what's more concerning. It's just completely capitulated for them. They're getting blown out by shitty teams. It's just not something that you're used to seeing from the glorious Greg Popovich and the esteemed Spurs franchise. But you look at, they lost to Atlanta by double digit, 125-106. They then lost to Detroit, who are no good, 130 by 7. They lose to Toronto by 14. They lose to Chicago by 24. These aren't just losses, Pro. These are every one of their games. In fact, they've only had one game in single digits in the last 10. So just getting absolutely pummeled, and they had to get the nod for one of the weakest teams in the league this week, Pro.
Bogues, when you're on a mission for a guy like this, and I don't even know how good, the French kid's going to be, Victor's going to be, physically in the league. I have no idea. I mean, I know he's super talented, but when you get a guy like this in the draft, and there's not a guy like this in the draft every year, even if he's going to be a superstar or a bust, there isn't a guy with this type of hype, that comes around every year in the draft. It might come every 6 or 7 or 10 or, years in the draft. And you got to do it. You got to tank with no feeling. Just say, guys, we don't care. We can lose by 400 and we don't care. We don't care. Like, you got to do it because this franchise is going nowhere fast. Their young players aren't great. I like Trey Jones. I like, Keldon Johnson's okay, but he's not my cup of tea at all. Like, you're not going forward with these guys. I like Vassell. He's good. Devin Vassell. He's really good. The kid from Florida State, the 2-guard averaging 19. I like
he's
him.
got a chance.
Yeah, he's got a chance to be pretty good. But everything is for. Everything's for that guy, as we know, and you can't care, Bogues. You know what? We're gonna get laughed out of the building. We're literally gonna be this Will Ferrell and semi-pro part 2, and that's it. We're gonna be a laughing stock, but we got to do what we got to do to get this kid because, as we've seen in free agency, no one wants to go to San Antonio anymore. It's got nothing. I don't think it's got anything to do with Pop or anything like that. But they just don't want to go. City-wise, they're not winning, first of all. It's not a great city to live in. The only way you're going to go there is they way overpay you. The only reason why guys went there on budgets, 8, 9, 10, 12 years ago, because they were winning. They were winning very well, and they had the thing rolling. No one wants to go there anymore. It's not that type of situation anymore. So they got to do what they got to do to get this kid. Because in the draft, it's 1, 2, and then G League. That's it. There's not much coming up in the draft after the first 2 picks. As far as the players that could be, that could really make differences. I'm sure there'll be good players that get drafted that no one really knows about right now, but that's it. And they're all in mode. They got to do it because their team's not very good. They don't have a lot of talent on their team. And, it's not like Oklahoma City where they got all those picks and they hit the picks. They haven't really hit on many picks in a while. They got a couple of decent players they've drafted, but they haven't really hit on picks. And they haven't really drafted high enough to get a great one. So they're just going to do anything they want. They're going to trade. I knew they were going to trade Poto away. I thought maybe Dallas would take him. Well, we'll talk about the Dallas thing in a minute. But so they trade Poto out. Like, he was their best player at the time. They got in my opinion. Then they got Keldon Johnson jacking up shots. Vassell's decent. McDermott's doing what he can. But man, they're a tough team to watch. They really are.
And I always say this: it's very dangerous to go into a blatant tank the way they are for your young players. And you've been on this side of things with player development. Is you never want losing to become immune and just become, yep, cool, we lost another game, right? And when you tank, for listeners out there, you are strategically trying to lose to get a pick, but it can have a detrimental effect to your young guys because all of a sudden, let's say one of the young guys in a year gets a nice contract from the Spurs. Okay, we see this guy as a future, we're going to pay him. Oh shit, we've been losing the last 2 years, so don't really have to incentivize winning. As long as I get my numbers, I'm going to get paid again. And then that's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous precedent. You've got to be very, very careful. And there's a strategy within tanking. Now, benefit of the doubt, Spurs are probably the one team with, that are a bit more disciplined with everyday things, that when they flick that switch back to demand professionalism and have a squad, they could probably do it a bit quicker than other teams. But you got to be careful. It's a dangerous, slippery slope that can go the other way.
Yeah, it is. It is, because this league's hard to win in. It really is hard. You know it, Bogues. You've been on every type of team possible in the NBA, from championship to complete fucking joke and everything in between. You've seen every type of team that, like, type of organization going, and it's tough. And you need talent. It's not college. You're not going to play. You're not going to play some like team that you're going to pay $25 grand, $30 grand to that you're going to beat by 40. Everybody's got NBA players on their team. And, even a really bad team can get you. And it's really, forget about every given night. I'm talking about over a course of a season just winning. And it's hard to you just can't, you can't just get cap room and say, okay, we got all this cap room, we're going to be good, because you got to get the right fit of players. You got to get the alpha dogs. You got to get the Tarzan and the Jane. You got to get the guys that are, alpha dogs, then the guys that could really take being in a role player. That's not that's not somebody that's going to jack up shots. You need a lot of that, and it just seems like they're all over the place. Like, I like Trey Jones, I like Vassell. I would trade Keldon Johnson. I like Doug McDermott coming off the bench, but these aren't guys that could really win you games. Keldon Johnson can get you points and he can put up numbers, but he can't win you games. I'll tell you what, the kid who's entertaining to watch, and I don't know if you've watched them a lot, is this kid Sohan. Have you seen him? The kid who's like Rodman.
Yep.
Yeah, I like him because he
one-hand free throws.
Yeah, the one-hand free throws. Who at one point was shooting 70% doing it that way. But I like that guy because he plays with energy. He's like a Rodman without a lot of the other stuff, but he rebounds, he plays hard, his shooting's getting a little better. But they're bad. And look, man, it's tough. Oklahoma City, I told you, Sam Presti, in my opinion, is the best GM in the league. It's not, it's not even close. And what they do is they acquire what they acquire. They know the players they're going to acquire, and they're going to trade off. They're going to get you for picks. They're going to try to acquire really good players that you're going to have to give them a treasure chest worth of stuff. And they're going to continue to, work their guys. They're going to be really bad. They're going to keep coaching their guys up, but they're going to have this, they're going to inject themselves with young talent that they've have in the past. You think the Clippers, if you think about it, you think the Clippers want that SGA trade back, maybe, with Paul George. SGA is one of the best players in the league right now. And Oklahoma City's been able to flip players and picks for other really good players and picks down the line. And now they've got a really good coach. They've got guys who fight. They've got players who are good guys that are talented, that are fighting. I just don't see that out of the Spurs group. Like, I like Trey Jones as a solid starting point guard. Vassell's a really a good player. But, like, after that, I don't really see a lot. Zach Collins is okay. Sohan's, like I said, energy guy. Stanley Johnson, end of your bench guy, end of your rotation guy. Romeo Langford, Charles Bassey, come on. McDermott, he's decent. But, like, they're going all in on this tank. And if they don't get him, I've seen this happen. Like, I've seen it when I was in Boston, around the Boston situation, when they tanked all year to get Duncan. They had 2 picks in the top 5, and they had 2 chances to get Duncan. And they thought, like, that's why Patino went to the Celtics, because he thought he was going to get Duncan, because 2 chances in the top 5, come on. And they missed out. And now look, they got a chance to get Chauncey Billups. They had a chance to get Tracy McGrady. They didn't. They got Billups, and they traded him in about 2 months. And then they had a chance to get McGrady, but since he decommitted from Kentucky with Patino, Patino passed on Tracy McGrady because he fucking decommitted from Kentucky. That is one of the all-time fucking stories I've ever heard. But what I'm saying is, Bo, it's like not every draft you have a chance to get a guy like this. And then when this, like a lot of these teams that go all in on tanking, a lot of times they don't get the pick. And this isn't a draft where there's like 3-4 big time difference makers. It's like this guy,
Scoot's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
2.
Scoot.
Yeah.
And then I don't know the draft well. I haven't started studying yet. I'll start studying in about a couple of weeks. But man, it's bothersome a little bit, Bogues. I'll tell you that.
Who you got this week?
I've got the Houston Rockets. Anybody who can get Steven Silas mad. I've been with Steven for at least Steven Silas is the nicest guy on the planet.
Yeah.
The nicest guy on the planet. I've been around a lot of NBA guys, and there are a lot of bad NBA guys. A lot of guys that will cut your throat out. He might be the most like ethical, loyal, unbelievable human being. Like, he sees the good in anybody. And to get him pissed, fuck that. I'm putting him on there, man. There's no fucking chance. I mean, like, I don't give a fuck if they won 10 in a row. I would have put them on there this week. That's you get Steven Silas mad, you get my vote. I mean, they've lost 5 in a row. They're not, I mean, look, I've told you this, and a lot of shit that I say is a lot of it's tomfoolery. A lot of it I just like, I like fucking around and getting a laugh out of people. But like, when I say they're an AAU team, that's what the fuck they are. And that's their approach. Like, Jalen Green's been in the league for a couple of years now. Like, it's time to fucking man the fuck up, and it's time to, like, take this shit serious. Because, like you said, Bogues, you can't just turn it off and on when you want. Like, Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, those guys are it. Like, those guys, like, in Jabari Smith, if they don't get it going, they're fucked. They're done.
Sengun's good as well.
Yeah, Sengun's good. Like, and Sengun's the guy. Sengun's right now, in my opinion, he's their best player to me. Like, I think Jalen Green might be their best talent
all around.
But Sengun's like Schengen, how the fuck you pronounce his name? Like, that guy, like, play like he's like a Sabonis sort of type. Like, he's tough, he's smart, does it all, screens, scores in the post, faces you up, plays hard. Not that athletic, I get it. He's not as talented as Green, Jabari Smith, or Porter Jr., but like, those guys got to start doing it. Because again, like, they're gonna look. Remember, you are who you are in this league, in my opinion, Bogues, by year 5. Like, you either take it serious and you're an all-star level player, or you're a good pro. By year 5, you sort of figure out who you are in the NBA. Sometimes it happens in year 1. A lot of times it happens in 2 or 3. But by the second contract, you're basically in that role of whatever you're going to be. And if you can't just turn this shit on, especially as years go on in this league, if you're a guy who just wants to get your numbers, then you're going to turn into one of those guys. And right now, Jabari Smith's trying. I just think he's had a tough bout of it, throughout this year. But Green and Porter, like, it's not just about getting your points. You gotta. There's a lot of other things that go into this to make you a good NBA player and a winning NBA player. And I know we talk about like veterans; they don't really have veterans there, and The only veteran they had is out the door now with Gordon. But they're gonna have to figure it out because at some point, Houston's gonna have to make a decision. Are we paying these guys on the the max deals, on their second deals, or do we deal them for something else? They're gonna have to make a decision on these guys long term. And I just think that they got to start playing. And when you're gonna piss off a coach in game like 55, and you're gonna piss off a coach like that with lack of effort, I could see in November, you're getting your legs under you, whatever. I don't think it's a great excuse, but I could see that, especially a team like this. But you're in February now, and you're not guarding, and you're not having effort, and you're letting this thing slip, and they're a joke. They're a complete fucking joke.
They're a prime example of too much young talent. And the dangers of having too much young talent. It's a constant wrestle. I guarantee you that locker room has a wrestle about who's the best player on any given night. Not openly, but it's kind of the tension in the room. I scored my 30 tonight, but he didn't, and that's not a good place to be. They're desperate to try and get veterans back there. No one wants to go there because they suck. That they could really do well by signing 2 or 3 veterans, maybe even overpaying a little bit for them to get in there. That can take minutes from these young guys that can get in there and be like, hey, you don't want to play? Cool. You lose minutes to that guy who's 13th year in the league and running on one kneecap, but he knows how to play and he plays the right way. So Houston are a perfect example of. Obviously they've tanked the last year or so. They've got their picks, but it's still not going anywhere and too much young talent. So you got to be careful. Like we said in the Spurs segment, it's a slippery slope. It's not as easy as just getting young talent. They're eventually going to lose 1 or 2 of those guys, I think, whether it be via trade or free agency. And then they'll probably regret, we should have kept that team together, a la the Triple J's in Dallas, or back in the 90s for all the 80s and 70s babies. But that's how the league goes. All right, let's get on to the trade stuff. A lot to get through. All right, we'll start with this. The Suns is the first one that pops up. I'm going to just go through NBA.com's official trade tracker that makes it all official. Suns get Kevin Durant and TJ Warren. Nets receive a boatload of picks. 23rd first round, 25th first round, 27 first round, 28 first round pick swap, 28 second round pick, 29 first round pick, 29 second round pick, Juan Pablo Valle, Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. Bucks receive Jay Crowder in that deal, and the Pacers receive George Hill, Serge Ibaka, Jordan Nwora, 3 future second-round picks and cash considerations. So those 2 teams were included, obviously, to make the money and salaries work. First off, KD to Phoenix, are they championship favorites, bro?
I think you got to put them right there, Bogues, to be honest with you. I mean, I think their bench obviously is going to take a little bit of a hit. Everybody moves up a spot. But, I think that starting 5 is as good as any other starting 5 in the league. And, obviously they got to gel together. But imagine, I don't know about Chris Paul's health for the rest of the year, but, imagine, you going in there with Booker, Durant, Ayton, and Chris Paul. That's a hell of a lineup.
Who steals the 4 spot?
That's the thing.
They tried our guy Jock at the 4 spot 2 games ago. That didn't go too well. He didn't have the best game starting, but 4 is not his natural position, especially the way the game's played. Who nabs that 4 spot? Probably Torrey Craig.
I would say Torrey Craig would. I think they're gonna I think they'll play around with it, but I think Torrey Craig. I think Jock's gonna. I think you'll start seeing a revolving door of guys to see what happens with that spot, but they don't really have a lot of before they had Jock, they had Saric, they had other guys, they had Crowder, the guys that could chance they could put
Cam played some 4 times.
So that's the spot they're gonna be sort of trying to figure things out. And I think they got Darius Baisley, didn't they, from Oklahoma? Yep. Yeah. So I'm not a big Baisley fan. I don't think he's great, but I think it's will be a revolving door. You know how the Chicago Bulls in the '90s they had 3 centers they kept on going in. I think they're gonna have the same. They'll be like the Spurs. They'll be like them. They'll be rotating in 4 men instead of 5s. And maybe you'll see TJ Warren at some 4. So I think that they'll
maybe they'll
revolve some guys in there.
They did lose some defense though. They did lose 2 of the best especially Bridges, one of the best defenders in the league. Cam Johnson was definitely, getting better and better defensively, some length. So they've lost some defense there. They're not as deep, but anytime you can get a Kevin Durant, hopefully healthy sooner rather than later, they've got a guy that can score, especially in those bogged down playoff series. So I don't have them as favourites, but I definitely have them moving up in the West. I still think there's a lot of water to go under the bridge. CP3's health, can they fit? I mean, can CP and how long till CP and KD get into it? So the way CP gets into every superstar, so that'll be interesting. But that's probably one of the bigger trades, that in the Kyrie one, which we'll get to shortly. But that's going to be interesting. And the sneaky one, which we spoke about, was Jay Crowder to the Bucks. We both discussed that probably last week or the week before as a guy that we thought the Bucks should circle, which would just complement the roster they have. Shit, they got it done. They got themselves involved in it. That's a huge underrated acquisition for Milwaukee. Gives them some toughness. Guy they can hit the 3 at the 4. They can go small ball lineups with Giannis at the 5. I like what the Bucks did there. The Pacers obviously made some moves to shed some salary and whatnot. I think they've waived a Bucker already. I'm not sure about George Hill.
Yeah.
So don't really discuss them too much. But and then the Nets. I mean, they get a young star and rising star in Bridges and Cam Johnson, who we don't know where the ceiling is at, and they get a shitload of picks. I mean, the Nets are where they were before they signed that big 3 with all the picks they had, and they got Bridges and Johnson out of it at least. So they're back to rewind 3-4 years ago when they were that young up-and-coming team that played. Remember, they played Philly in that playoff series, and it was back and forth and all the shit talking, and they still lost, but they were that young up-and-coming team. Well, they're back at that stage again. I think with Ben Simmons.
Yeah. Ben Simmons is the only thing that I'm that just sort of ruins it for them. But to me, they're a little better off now than they were before they made the trades and stuff. With like you said, where they were before they got KD and those guys. I think that Claxton, it might be right around where Jared Allen was. I think Bridges is better than. Dinwiddie, where Dinwiddie was or LeVert was, when they made those trades, to get him, they got Claxton, him. The picks will be okay. The picks will be probably in the 20s. But then Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, Spencer Dinwiddie, I think is better now than he was, when he was there before they shipped everybody out. So I do think they're a little bit better, but they wasted 3 or 4 years of getting to this point. And it sucks, but that's just sort of what it is. I mean, look, I think they did what's best for their team, and we'll talk about the Dallas trade in a minute, but I think the picks plus Bridges, and Claxton's really come along as a good player, but now they got Simmons, and that sort of puts a dark cloud.
He's coming off the bench still, pro.
Yeah.
That's got to hurt. I mean, they blew up their team. They got no max guys really besides himself.
Yeah.
And they've made a trade, and he lost his minutes instantly to the guys they got in trade. Guys they just jumped off the plane, hadn't got their luggage yet, and he's still coming off the bench. So I know there were rumors that they were trying to unload him at all costs, but man, it's quite a fall from grace.
Yeah, and Bogues, when you're acquiring players in this league, you acquire players that either going to help you and you're going to get them for all their talent, and then you're just going to get rid of them at some point. Or you get guys that are going to have value that you could trade, for future assets down the line. Or the last one, which Simmons is, someone that you're going to have to put capital behind to attach to get them off your books. So, in reality, to get off Simmons' money, you'd probably have to give up 2, if not 3 of those picks. Maybe you put some protection on those picks. But, that's what it's going to take to get Simmons out the door. I don't think they want to, they're probably not happy with Simmons. They sort of see him for some type of talent, but you're paying that guy that much money, and in reality, he is coming off the bench because, look, he can't shoot. He doesn't want to shoot. We could go through all that stuff, but where they are now, Dinwiddie, Cam Thomas, Bridges, and put Dorian Finney-Smith or Royce O'Neal, whatever. It's the 1, 2, 3, and 4. I like Simmons' passing and stuff, but. They are what they are right now. But Cam Thomas is another one that they seen him develop over the last couple of years. I'm not a huge fan. I think he's a low efficient gunner that could score points, as we saw. I think 2 or 3 straight 40-point games. He could really score it, but I'm not a huge fan. But they do have some talent. They got young guys that will fight. I love Dorian. I love Royce O'Neal. Claxton plays hard. Bridges plays hard. They're going to have to acquire a scorer, in my opinion, like a real scorer. Dinwiddie could score a little bit. Bridges ain't really a scorer. But, they do have guys that are going to compete every night. They're going to guard. They're going to be up-tempo when they want to be. I like Dinwiddie. He's pretty exciting. They got a little bit of shooting with Harris and Curry, coming off the bench. It'll be an interesting deal for sure. But, look, Brooklyn had to do what they had to do.
It moves them down as well, pro, next season. They're at 157 million this season. They dropped to 145 and then 78 the season after. So they've shed a bunch of salary. 145 as of today would put them in 22nd in the league in salary. So they've done a great job saying, you know what, we're not going to be a championship contender anymore. We're going to get some young assets and some picks, and we're going to shed salary. So they could afford to keep Ben Simmons and stay at that salary floor as well. If they get rid of him for nothing, they're going to have to take something back just as bad. So maybe they just keep him on the roster. But good trade all around for everyone. I think there were numerous winners in this one. So good job to all teams involved there. The next one we have Mason Plumlee, which was kind of a strange one. Mason Plumlee to the Clippers for Reggie Jackson and a second-round pick. So they just need some backup for Zubats. I mean, Zubats generally plays 20 to 25. They had Hartelstein last season who had a great year there and then moved on to New York or the season before. And I guess they needed a backup big. The problem is Mason Plumlee and Zubats probably relatively the same numbers. So the question is going to be, we still think Zubats will start. He's got a bit more size and strength and probably a better role player. But Plumlee is also a very good player. So that'll be an interesting one. I think we have to get into that one too much, pro. 76ers acquire Jalen McDaniels, a 24 second round and a 29 second rounder for Svi Majic. How do you pronounce that? Majicek.
There you go.
Good luck with that one. 23 second round pick, 27 second round pick. Trailblazers received Cam Reddish, who's been bounced around a few times now, hasn't played. He actually played in his first game and played pretty well. Matisse Thybulle, our guy, Aussie, he's gone over there. And Ryan Arcidiacono, one of your Italian brethren, and a 23 first round pick. So great for Matisse to get out of Philly and maybe find a better role. Portland definitely can use Matisse because they need some defense. So I like that acquisition by them, and they'll give him a chance to play. The Knicks in that deal received Josh Hart. I think this is a really quiet, underrated move. I think he will excel in Thibodeau's system. Plays very hard, great defender, actually a good finisher in the paint for the most part, draws a lot of contact and gets out on the open floor. So I like that move by the Knicks as well, pro. I'm not sure about your thoughts on any of those.
Yeah, I mean, I like Thybulle and I like Matisse in Portland for sure. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't really high on Cam Reddish. I did a little bit of a deep dive on him the last couple of days just to watch him. He's not bad. He reminds me a little bit of he's got a little Trevor Ariza in him. Long athletic guy. I don't know if he guards like that. Trevor really didn't guard like that when he came in the league, but I think Thybulle will be good. With all the offense they got in their starting lineup, they really need somebody who can guard. And I think that, with Simons and Lillard, neither one of them really defend that well. Thybulle, and Jeremy Grant in that lineup would be good. I think that would be good for him. And New York, I like Hart. Hart rebounds. He plays hard. I think it's a really good acquisition for Tibbs. He's a Tibbs kind of guy. He plays hard. He's going to help that team. Not a great player or anything, but he guards, he rebounds. He's an athletic kid, college teammate with Jalen Brunson, so that'll be interesting. There was a lot of social media hype with that because Brunson was excited to have him. But I think it'll be good. Yeah, I like those trades for both teams.
Yeah. Likewise, our Clippers. The Clippers get Eric Gordon and 3 future second-round picks. The Rockets receive John Wall, Danny Green, who has just been waived, and protected pick swap, and the Grizzlies receive Luke Kennard. I think the Grizzlies have done well getting another shooter there. Luke Kennard, I like that. Eric Gordon and the Clippers, huge pickup in my opinion. I think he can really help them, provide a bit more shooting, a nice veteran that knows his role. John Wall to the Rockets is hilarious because only a month or two ago he gave that infamous interview about shitting on the players that he was playing with. I can't remember the player that he mentioned that was starting at center. Do you remember the name, pro? I don't know if you saw that interview.
Yeah, he shit on the whole town. I don't think he's going to be.
There was a starting center. I can't remember who it was. It was obviously a role player. He just basically said, "Man, this was our starting 5." So I assume they're going to waive him and get him out of there after that. But who knows? That's full circle. But the Clippers and the Grizzlies got better.
Yeah, the Clippers need a point guard, though. I mean, they don't really have a true point guard on the whole roster right now. So, right now you're looking at either starting Paul George and Norman Powell at the 1 and 2, or you got to start Terrence Mann at the point guard spot. Maybe you do Mann, who could just get you in the offense, but they definitely got to acquire one. I know, they'll probably be knocking out Westbrook's door if he does get bought out by Utah. I don't think that's been official yet. So it'll be interesting what they do.
That'll be an interesting one. Yeah, they do need some help there. Maybe they start Eric at the 1 and just have him bring it up and throw it to one of those monsters in PG and Kawhi and just go sit in the corner. Well, not a lot of creation.
They only play every 11 games, so I don't know when they'll actually
that's the problem.
give it to them. Yeah,
and they don't run. It's not like they run some sort of intricate offense that a point guard needs to get guys to spots. They're pretty isolation based from the games that I've watched. There's not a whole lot of ball movement. It ends up being a Zubats, PG or Zubats Kawhi pick and roll, get out of the way, bucket, try to get O board. That's generally what they do. So it's not too complicated there in Clipperland. Next one, we have the Celtics acquire Mike Muscala. Thunder receive Justin Jackson, 2 future second-round picks. Just a bit more shooting for the Celtics. Will Muscala play big minutes? Who knows? Probably 5 to 10, maybe 15, but a bit more shooting to shore up their lineup pro. Nothing too special there. Josh Richardson from the Pelicans, we discussed earlier. Spurs got rid of him for Devontae Graham. 24, 26, 28, and 29 second-round picks to the Spurs. So they're in ultimate tank mode, as we said. Devontae Graham's not a bad pickup for him. Bit of shooting there, can score, can get hot. He's kind of a microwave type player, so they're definitely banking more picks and trying to load up for that Victor stakes. All right, this one's an interesting one. So Pistons land Wiseman, Warriors acquire Payton the second. So the Pistons receive James Wiseman, Warriors receive Gary Payton the second, and 3 conditional future second round picks via Atlanta. Sadiq Bey goes to the Hawks and Kevin Knox goes to the Trailblazers along with 5 second round picks. This has just been confirmed that it's gone through today. There's a lot of controversy with this because Gary Payton II, it's been reported that the Blazers, who have dealt with a lot of big injuries with Odin and whatnot before, and they forced him to play. Something to do with a torn abdominal, is it, Pro, I think, or something like that. He was playing hurt, shouldn't have been playing. They forced him to play to make him look like he's healthy. The Warriors failed him on the physical. Problem being the Warriors need to make this move regardless of getting anyone back that can play because it saves them some salary. Moving Wiseman, obviously a top 5 pick in the draft. His salary continues to climb year on year. I've also heard that Wiseman was completely cooked with the Warriors, Pro. Seeing a sports psych, and he needed to get out of there. There's no way they could have let him come back after this happened, considering the circumstances he was in the last year. So the Warriors have come to their senses and said, we got to do this deal. What I found interesting, Pro, is because the trade deadline passed, this deal could not be tweaked. So if the deadline hadn't passed, historically the way these deals work, if something like that happens, the Blazers might say, okay, yeah, you caught us, he's hurt. Just give us 1 pick instead of 3 and we'll make a deal, right? Or give you cash considerations or we'll throw in player X. Because the deadline expired, you couldn't tweak it in any way, even with picks. So they were caught in a rock and a hard place. The Warriors had to make the deal. They've now put in a formal complaint to the NBA, hoping that they fine the Blazers. I think the Blazers are probably going to receive a fine. I don't know what you think, but a bit of drama at the end. And with Wiseman, I'll just say this. A lot of people have asked, is Wiseman a bust? Is he not? I don't think you can label him a bust yet. And here's why. The Warriors system for a 5-man out of college, it's a unique, it's a different system. And it's probably a system that he's never played before. I mean, you're getting post-ups to dribble it out to the 3 and hand off and then roll. He wouldn't have never done that in his life. He would have got post touches in college to score. We're going to you to score. And it's a very read and react offense, and he struggled in it. There's no secret. He struggled in it. Even with his athleticism, he really struggled in it. So I give him the benefit of the doubt on the bust until I want to see him for a year or 2 with the Pistons. Then I will judge him upon him being a bust. Because, the Pistons they're going to spoon feed him. They're going to give him, 10, 15 touches a night and let him play through his mistakes. They're not that good right now. They're getting better. And we'll see where he's at. We'll see if he's grown. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. But as far as the other 3 players, Sadiq Bey, decent scorer for the Hawks. He'll give them a bit of a microwave feel off the bench. And Kevin Knox to the Blazers doesn't change a lot in my opinion. So what are your thoughts on all this, bro?
Well, first of all, it's a complete fucking embarrassment, with Portland not reporting that to, because in these trade calls, like before you make these trades, you get all the medical and all these guys, all the medical going into a trade, right? And not to report it. I mean, that's some chicken shit stuff. You gotta be professional.
Especially something that severe, like it's an abdominal strain, dude. Like they're gonna put him through like the first 3 exercises. They're gonna be like, dude, what's wrong with your abdominals?
Yeah, like come on,
like it's not one you can hide, like an ankle or something. You know what I'm saying?
And that's big, and that's bullshit. And not look, the force into play thing, that's on him. We're talking about player empowerment. Your body doesn't feel right, and it's not like you're a non-guaranteed second round pick. You're making real money now. And if they're making you play and your fucking O'Donnell's fucked up and you don't say, wait a minute, dude, no, I'm not playing. This is like, you got 90% of NBA players faking injuries to get days off. This is a legitimate injury. Like, you didn't tell them, like, wait a minute, dude, I'm not playing. No, you're not forcing me to do shit. I'm not playing.
Yeah, but I disagree with you a little bit. It becomes, there are players that still care. There are players that will still, at times I was probably hard-headed on coming back earlier than I should have because I want to play, right? And I think you do feel when you're hurt and you're out, it's supposed to be 2 to 3 weeks and you're out 3.5, 4 weeks. You get to a point where you're like, shit, like I'll give it a go, man. I'm just sick of answering these reporters' questions, sick of my teammates looking at me like, hey, you're doing all the weights, you're doing a one-on-one workout for 15 minutes.
But then don't say they forced me to play then. I'm all good for that, Bogues. Like
I get it. I get it.
I'm all for
it's a guy. Tough one though.
Yeah,
it's a tough
Bogues,
one.
I'm all for a guy fighting through it. I respect that, but you can't have it both ways. You can't fight through
and blame him,
and then blame him, right? Like I do blame them. I don't blame him. I blame them. But anyways, as far as that's a fucking embarrassment. I would fire whoever's in charge of that. I would fire him and then rehire him and fire him again for that bullshit. Because that's some fucked up shit. The second thing is, let's talk about the trade itself. Now, James Wiseman, you can say whatever you want, bust, no bust, whatever. I don't really have an idea about it yet. I'm not a big fan of his. I think he's a Dwayne Dedmon type. I've been saying that since day one. I've never really been a fan of his. But I will say this, as far as value on things, and to see how much value Wiseman has around the league, he's a number 2 pick in the draft. And you basically just gave him away for a second unit defender. Now I know that Peyton.
That's hurt.
Yeah, I know that Peyton had a lot to do with your second unit and winning a championship, and I get that. But you literally just gave the guy away. He literally just made the salary work. You gave him away. You got no real true asset back. You got a guy who's hurt. He's a decent player, don't get me wrong, but you could literally pick up a guy on the buyout market that could be almost as good as that, and it wouldn't really cost you anything. You literally gave away. So all those serenading of Wiseman and their young players and stuff like that, Kuminga, I still think he'll be okay. This guy is not very good, and you literally just gave him away. And, that has a lot to do with doing your homework, drafting a guy. I understand the system's hard, the split action and all that. I do understand that. But you didn't really have a lot of homework on him. The guy played 3 games in college. He was under investigation for some, I think Penny Hardaway giving him money or whatever to move. He had some scandal stuff going. But it says a lot when you're a second pick in the draft a few years back and you literally just got given away. And he's in a really, like I said, by year 5, Bogues, he's creeping up on that now, where he's got to make some stuff work. We saw that with Marvin Bagley, who's on Detroit as well, like a guy who was a top pick, top 5 pick in the NBA and didn't really get it going. And you sort of like one of those wounded puppies on an ASPCA commercial. If you start going long enough where you're not really getting a lot of traction. We saw this in high picks with Anthony Bennett. We saw that in Cleveland where his whole thing became a shit show. He didn't play in a few years and then he gets traded 4 or 5 times and he's out of the league. You see this a lot with high draft picks that don't get it going early. Darko Milicic, is another one. He's got to play in enough's enough now. He didn't really play college. He had good stats in 3 games in college. You didn't really see much of him. Now it's time to put up or shut up. You're either going to play or you're not. Like I said, I think he's a nice little role player, second unit player. He's going to play behind Doran, Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart. He'll play behind him, probably a second unit center for Detroit. But he's got to learn an NBA skill. He doesn't really rebound. His offense is just he's big and he can run and all that stuff. But now it's time to no more excuses. You can't blame Golden State fucked me this and that. Detroit's terrible. They're trying. There's plenty of minutes for him to play. And they're going to give him a shot, but it's not going to be easy either because you got Stewart, Duran, and you got Bagley there. So he's got to try to find a way to get time too. And you got Nerlens Noel, who's a pretty good player too. I know we have a lot of jokes on Nerlens, but you got a lot of bigs there. So
solid.
Yeah, solid. So
and young stars.
Yeah.
Young stars to compete with. But that draft was pretty weak in general. Edwards number 1. Wiseman 2, LaMelo Ball, Pat Williams. He's the other players in that whole draft of 60 that I've got noted as the best players in it. You got Vassell, you got Halliburton, you got Toppin, you got Pat Will, you got Isaiah Stewart, you got Josh Green, Sadiq Bey, Desmond Bain, and Maxey. That's it. I mean, it's a pretty, Avdia's in there, Jalen Smith, but, there wasn't a whole lot of talent. Cole Anthony's in there as well. So not horrible, but a pretty lean draft. But anyway, moving on. All right, Suns, Thunder, this is really a nothing trade. Darius Baisley, as we said, is there now. Darius Saric to the Thunder for a 29 second round pick and some cash. Nothing to discuss there, really, in my opinion. Hawks acquire Fernando and Garrison Matthews. So Bruno Fernando, Garrison Matthews go to Atlanta. My guy, former teammate, championship winner Justin Holiday and Frank Kaminsky, 24 second round and 25 second round to the Rockets. Bit of a cash splash for both those teams, saving some money. Thomas Bryant goes from the Lakers to the Nuggets. The Lakers receive your guy, Mo Bamba, Devon Reed, a second round pick, and the Clippers. This is Bones Highland, not a point guard again, pro, but a legit Jamal Crawford tie for the Clippers. So decent acquisition, and then you got Patrick Beverley going to the Orlando Magic. Maybe we can get them into that play-in championship game again, and a 24 second round pick and some cash from the Clippers. So that's that 14 trade running on that.
No, I forgot that Bones Highland went to the Clippers. So there's a point guard there. Yeah,
but he's not really a point guard he's a bucket.
No,
he's more
he likes to point at people.
He's more of a scorer.
Yeah, there's two types of point guards. There's point guards and there's guys that like to point at people. He's a guard that likes to point at people like, fuck off, I'm not going to give you the ball.
Point at the O board.
Yeah, the Thomas Bryant thing was interesting. Bogues, I'm excited to talk about the Utah trade that they made, not for the main players that were involved, but the role players that were involved for LA. Thomas Bryant was a weird one to me that they got rid of him, but it made sense because when they made the Westbrook deal to get the other, the Vanderbilt, but Thomas Bryant just can't guard. He put up good numbers. He was tough and strong. He put up good numbers, but I read that he wanted a bigger role. He was pissed that AD was coming back. And look, most NBA players are delusional as it is. I understand that. I respect that. That you're trying to talk yourself up. But Thomas Bryant's just an average player. He's an average player that put up numbers, that played with some good players. But I think they totally upgraded with what they got in the Utah trade for Thomas Bryant because Bryant couldn't guard anybody. He just couldn't play defense, couldn't keep in front of the ball, handle and pick and roll. Scored some points, shot the ball well, played well for them when AD was out. But the Bones Highland thing I totally forgot about. But like you said, they just need a guy who can handle the ball a little bit. So at least they got one guy. And I know they're going to get somebody in the buyout market. Yeah, that's about it. And then Mo Bamba, I don't think Mo's going to play at all really for the Lakers unless it's coming off back-to-backs and stuff. AD, Jared Vanderbilt, and I even like Wayne Gabriel's playing well. But I will give Mo his credit. He played a lot better after I fucking went off on him.
Go much better.
He played well. He did play well. I got to give it to him. Those guys, Jamal Mosley and those guys got a lot out of him in Orlando.
And then moving on to that other trade you were talking about, the Lakers received D'Angelo Russell, so he's back in LA. Malik Beasley, who funnily enough I've read was dating Scottie Pippen's ex-wife, who's their child, Scottie Pippen Jr. is on the Lakers. That should be some good locker room banter there, Pro, I'm sure. And Jared Vanderbilt. Timberwolves receive Mike Conley, Nickel Alexander-Walker, 24 second-round pick swap, a second-round pick for 25 and 26. The Jazz receive Russell Westbrook, who's in buyout negotiations, Juan Toscano Anderson, Damian Jones, and a 27 first-round pick. Those negotiations have been awfully quiet, Pro, with Westbrook and Jazz. Do you think Danny Ainge is trying to save some money there? Because generally, for people that don't know how this works, what Russell Westbrook owed, 16 to 17 million for the rest of his contract of this season. The way it generally works, if you're going to get a deal with another team at the vet min, they'll offset that, so the vet min might get you another $1 million into the season. So Utah said, here's the check for 15, see you later. You think Danny Ainge is trying to save a bit more money, Pro, because it's gone quiet?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, they're probably just trying to negotiate the best deal they can to try to get a little bit more than the vet minimum prorated, if I were to guess. Or maybe, I don't know. Like, you can't think.
Well, usually these things happen straight away.
Yeah.
That's why. Usually when these trades are made, you look at Danny Green, you look at a few other guys. They don't even fly there. Within a day or two, the agent said, look, he's not reporting for you guys. Waive him. He's going to sign with a championship contender. See you later. And Westbrook's linked to the Los Angeles Clippers. But, I mean, it's just nothing's happened yet.
Do you think he wants to stay there?
No, I think Danny Ainge has probably offered him 10 million and said, take a hike or you can come and report. And he said, I want my whole 15. That's what I assume slowing this up.
Right, but don't you think that would have been leaked? Like, Shams would have got it. One of these guys would have got it, though.
Why has it not come out, though? Why hasn't it been done then? So what's the holdup? You think he wants to report to Utah? I doubt
I don't
that
think
very
he's
much.
excited. I don't think he's excited.
I mean, he's in a tough spot.
Yeah, I don't think he's excited about it, but I don't know. Like, usually you would have heard something. That's the thing. He's got a few more weeks before that date comes where you can sign with a playoff team. I would think that he would want to play for whatever team he's going to go to, for a while before before they can get waived. I don't know, Bogues, but usually with this stuff, it happens quick, as we've talked about 18 times already in the last 2 minutes. So I don't know. It's a weird one. I don't think Ainge. To be honest with you, I don't think Ainge wants to save all that much money. Like, I don't think he'd be like, hey, we're going to give you $7 million or whatever on his money. I don't know. Like, I would have thought that would have been, like, talked about, like, with his agent. Usually, like, before the trade, they'll talk to the agent, like, look, dude, we're just going to buy him out. Don't worry about it. It's good. He can go wherever he wants. We just want whatever. So it's weird. I don't think it's totally weird yet. I mean, it's still only a few days old, but yeah, you would think that it would have been done already. I would assume it's going to be done in the next 48 hours. But it's interesting, like, does he want to stay or not? I mean, I would assume he wants to play for a championship. So I don't know why he would want to stay, but I don't know. I have no idea. That I'm tapped. Interesting
to note nonetheless. Yeah. And I think, he's going to be on a vet min deal, and I'd be very surprised if he got I think his ceiling will probably be that mid-level for next season if he gets that. Yeah. So we'll see where that goes. Raptors have added Pirtle from the Spurs, as we mentioned earlier, for Kem Birch, and a first-round pick in 24, second-round pick in 23 and 25. So we knew that he was on the run. Goes back to where he was a rookie. So we'll see how that goes. Kings add Kessler Edwards and cash considerations, and Nets get draft rights to David Michinow. A salary shed for someone there. Your guy, Dwayne Dedman, has gone back to the Spurs for cash considerations to the Heat, and a 2028 second-round pick goes along with Dedman.
I think he's going to be a buyout too.
You're bought out?
I think he's going to.
Yeah, he'll be a buyout. He'll be a buyout and probably join where? What are you hearing?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything yet. And then we haven't really talked about what do you think, Bogues, on the trade with the Lakers, though? What they got with Russell and Vanderbilt and and Beasley? Like, do you have any idea? Do you have any sort of thought on it either way?
Yeah, for what they gave up, I think it's an improvement. I mean, they gave up Russ, who reportedly wasn't a good fit there, and Toscano Anderson and Damian Jones weren't playing a lot anyway, so they get Angelo Russell. I mean, jury's out on him. This is kind of getting to nut-cutting time for him, about solidifying his career and who he is and what he can do. Malik Beasley's solid, and Vanderbilt's got some potential. So I like that for the Lakers. Yeah. I think it was a decent deal. I think Pelinka finally got on ESPN the trade machine and punched some trades out and figured something out. So yeah. I think it's a decent deal for the Lakers. I think Timberwolves got better with Conley at the point. Played with Rudy before. Hopefully should get them better. A steady point guard when you got Edwards at the 2, I think was needed more than having Russell and Edwards. It just wasn't a good fit. So I like that as well. And we all know the Jazz are just shedding and just getting those Victor sweepstakes as soon as they can. So I think it was good for all three teams for the where they're trying to get to.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a huge D'Angelo Russell fan. I just something about him. It just like not a really winning player to me, even though he won in Brooklyn or whatever. I really like Jared Vanderbilt. I think that Vanderbilt is turning into one of the better defensive bigs in the league. Not a dominating defensive big, but like you've watched him last night, running the floor, setting screens, just giving energy. They really need that, and that's going to really help them. I think Russell and Westbrook will sort of offset each other. They both can really score, a little bit. They both take really bad shots. They're both black holes when, as far as like giving it to them, you're probably not going to get it back unless they're going to get an assist, of course. But Beasley gives them a little bit. But I do like the Vanderbilt get. I think it gives them a little bit more energy and another big they could guard because, like I said, that Bryant wasn't really getting it done for them. So, yeah, I think that they're okay. I'm still not a Laker fan. I don't think they're going to. I'll go with my original prediction of not making the play-in. But I think it's going to be really hard.
They're surging for 11 or 10, pro. They're going to surge to an 11 spot, maybe a 10.
Surge. I like that surge.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah. All right, the last one is a big one. Mavericks. Mavericks get Kyrie Irving, Markieff Morris. Nets get Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a 29 first-round pick, and 2 future second-round picks. I like this for Dallas. I think it's a risk worth taking. We know if Kyrie off the floor at times can go AWOL, but I think he's going to be on his best behavior. Obviously, going into a potential extension contract year, he's going to do his best to prove that he should stick around. Dallas, for some reason, just never have been a prime destination for free agents. As we both know, historically, it just has never happened where a marquee free agent's gone there. I'm not sure why. It's a decent city to live in. You save some taxes with your state income tax, no state income tax in Dallas. Decent owner, decent fan base. So I'm not too sure about that. But I could see him sticking around if he has a good season, and I think he's already been pretty good for him. Had a first few games were really good. Now he's probably going to be off the ball a lot more with Luka back in the lineup. Luka's numbers will take a hit naturally, and he should welcome that because he's got some help. And I think even Morris, if he gets healthy and gets better, and he could somewhat help them with a little bit of toughness. But they have lost some defense. Dorian Finney-Smith was their best on-ball defender. Was really, really good for them, really solid role player for him, and obviously got paid for it, but he's now gone. So I like it for both teams. It was interesting that the Nets jumped so quickly. Joe Tsai, I think he screwed this up. As I said last week, I think he lost a lot of his leverage by saying that he's not going to extend him and all that kind of stuff. So and there were rumors that he didn't want to move him to the Lakers in spite of him because that's where he wanted to go. So I don't think that's the best attitude to have as an owner. I think you want to put your grievances aside at all times and do what's best for the team. But good get for Mark Cuban.
Yeah, I think it was. Look, the Mavericks, just the way they were constructed without Brunson, they weren't beating any good teams, like really good teams. They could beat the middle class. They could maybe sneak up on one guy once in a while, on a good team, but they just weren't good enough to beat great teams. And Luka, I mean, look, he has to score like 45 to compete with really great teams every night, and he just can't do that by himself all the time. And I think that getting Kyrie just they were sort of forced into it. They weren't beating anybody. They weren't going anywhere. They probably would have been a mid-tier team, and this gives them a chance. Now, it's one of those moves, Bogues, that I don't think there's one person that I talk to in basketball that thinks it's going to work. I think it's going to look great for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then it's just going to look like the history of him. Look, this whole thing was about money. He wanted $200 million. It's funny because he obviously leaked this to Shams because Shams tweeted out like Kyrie wouldn't have taken the 197 even if it was offered, which is complete bullshit. Like, he wanted his money. He thought that Brooklyn was going to give it to him. When he found out really, putting his foot in the water and figuring out they weren't going to give him the $200 million, now he started this whole trade. So it's a good business move for him. He wanted $200 million. Who's going to give it to you? The Lakers could give it to you, but they weren't giving it to them. And Mark Cuban will pay $200 if he really feels as though it's going to bring him a championship. That's one thing Mark will do. Mark will put his balls on the line for his team any day of the week. And if he feels as though this is going to work, then it's great. The problem, though, Bogues, is where's the history? Not of him winning, because he won a championship, obviously, and he's a hell of a player that was probably playing some of his best basketball in his career before the trade demand. Like, he was playing great. But where is it where for like 3 months straight, where there wasn't something controversial that came out of his mouth, some issue, and the guy's only played about half his game. Like, he's missed, I forgot, like with Brooklyn, he's played like half of his games. Now, I know, mask mandate, all that stuff, vax and all that. But like where is the, I'm all in? Like, when's the last time he's been all in, and not been a problem on one end or another? I don't think he's a bad teammate. I think he might be challenging the coach for certain coaches, for sure. But that's where I see it. I see it being really great for a few weeks. And then I could see this going to be a sign and trade in July for either Anthony Davis or Bradley Beal. That's where I see it. I think it's great in theory, Kyrie and Luka playing, because I think Luka could get off the ball. I don't think Luka has a problem getting off the ball if it's the right player getting off the ball for. And he hasn't had one up to now. So I think he'll be fine. Luka's all about winning, in my opinion. And he wants to put up his numbers, but he's about winning. And Kyrie and him are great. Imagine the IQ. That might be the highest IQ backcourt I've ever seen. So that's great. Like, Kyrie, you take away the other stuff, he's the best finisher I've ever seen. One of the best ball handlers I've ever seen. I mean, he could definitely play, and he ups the level. Those two guys could up the level of those role players, like a Wood, like Josh Green, like Jaden Hardy. If Hardaway can make a couple of shots in a row, Hardaway, I like it. I think it's going to be good, but I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to end up in a sign and trade for one of those two other guys.
Interesting. We'll watch that space. I think Wood now has come off the bench last game, so I don't know if he was late for shoot around or some other shit, but they've gone back to the well of JaVale McGee, starting to play a bit more, and I think JaVale's an actually good fit for having those two. Yeah, those two-headed monsters. You have JaVale there, and you got Dwight Powell as well. They're solid role players, whereas Christian Wood probably is more offensive slider. Now that you've got two offensive juggernauts, you probably want a bit more defense and rebounding. So I like that move by J. Kidd. I'd rather bring Wood off the bench as a six-man scoring type, but we'll see how they go. All right, on to some news. Beyond that, actually, let's just touch on some buyout candidates. Terrence Ross has been bought out. We've spoken about him at length in numerous years, always around the deadline. There could be a good pickup for a championship team. He's linked to Phoenix. Yeah, he's linked to Phoenix. I don't know if it's official yet, but he's linked to Phoenix. But Gunner, great pickup for them. I like that off the bench. We spoke about Westbrook. He's rumored to the Clippers. Did you see the Pat Riley news, Pro?
Yeah, I did. Can you read about it? That was pretty good. I like that.
Absolute classic. So apparently the Miami Heat had a deal to send Kyle Lowry to the Clippers. Not sure who it was for. I don't know if you know, Pro, but right. Pat Riley fell asleep during trade deadline. It was getting a bit too late there on the East Coast and just a bit of a snooze, didn't answer his phone, and they didn't go ahead with the trade, Pro. So you might be in some trouble. You might be getting up there in age. You might have to move from a front office role to maybe just an advisory role where you can still sleep from, early bird, have his early bird dinner at 5, 6 and be in bed by 8. You can do that as an advisor and have someone else take the big calls from now on, Pro. But pretty funny story to come out.
Bogues, yeah. I mean, Pat Riley is probably one of the best GMs in the history of the NBA. But that is pretty funny, if that is true. It's weird, too, because that organization, they don't leak. They don't leak at all, and they're afraid of the guy. And I'm surprised that even got out, but that's interesting. But Riley's always been a little different, man. I remember when he got to Miami, that he had it in his contract. You know how everybody got at the time when he went to Miami, $80 a day, $90 a day meal money. He had it in his contract where it's $300 a day. He's like a CEO. It's unbelievable. So the guy from the Miami Herald actually went around, did a story on trying to spend $300 a day on eating, and he couldn't do it at the time, which is funny. But imagine if
no caviar or cigars.
Yeah, but I remember there was also him and that per diem is pretty big. but like he's like one of those like secret guys. Like he doesn't like to talk to people. He's always like in a dark room. Like I guess during the lockout, he still got his per diem or whatever. So some like video guy, it was instructed that he had to like deliver it in the back, like the back quarters of his house. He didn't want anybody going to the front. So some guy was sick, so the intern had to bring it, and he no one told him. So he brought it in, and fucking Riley's bitching him out during the lockout. Anyways, I digress. But Riley's a different cat, but imagine if that was a major trade. Like imagine, like Kyle Lowry, this probably wasn't a major trade,
shit.
But imagine if it was like acquiring like Kevin Durant or something like that, and he's snoozing with like Well, I could just see him like down with like the white stuff on his face and the cucumbers on his eyes, and fucking like, no, come on, man. Like come on,
sleeping mask.
Yeah, Kevin Durant for Tyler Hero, come on, let's do it. And he's like,
oh, at that point, you go to the house.
Yeah,
you go to the house, a la Mark Cuban and DeAndre Jordan. Yeah. You go knock on that door and be like, get up, Pat. Come on, let's go. Interesting one. All right. Siakam, Edwards, and Fox are the injury replacements for the All-Star game. Nothing to talk about. I totally agree with these. I think they got these right, pro. So we discussed these guys as probably the biggest snubs, especially Fox. So they got that right. NBA opt-out deadline with the MBPA has been extended to Wednesday, March the 31st. So what that means is if either side opts out, the current agreement expires June 30 if both sides opt out. That means there could be potential lockout on the cards. So that 31st date, if they can come to an agreement to then, will be interesting. If they both opt out, or either side opts out, then we're going into a full-blown negotiation that needs to get done by June 30. Yeah,
it's going to come down, Bogues. It's going to come down to this. I think the major sticking point, look, I think everybody's making enough money on both sides. Obviously, everybody's trying to push for more, but it's going to come down. I think the owners are going to really put their foot down on this, sitting out, load management stuff. I think they're going to really try to come up with some idea. And, look, we've been through a few ideas on the show, and I think it's just going to come down to that. And look, no one wants to sit out. The only thing is, though, Bogues, unlike 2011, where they sat out, like these guys are making a lot more money than they did in 2011. And not that these guys are great with their money, because they almost never are. But it'll be interesting because they're both going to fight for it.
Oh, it'd be blatant insanity to lock out now, bro. It'd be blatant insanity. You got your players making $50 million a year with max contracts.
Yeah. They're making too. They're making.
You look at what's going on in the world and what people eating shit sandwiches all over the world with inflation and cost of living. I mean, in Australia, it's rampant. The cost of living here is becoming higher and higher on a daily basis. So I don't think they're getting screwed. I think either side's doing pretty well, and I think they should just come to an agreement. I think it's a pretty fair deal for both, but I don't see a lockout happening. No. I think they'll get over the line. It's probably posturing about a few probably stupid things along the way, but I agree with you. I think it'll get done, and just a matter of signing that off and making sure that everyone's happy.
Yeah, like I said, I think that they got to do something with the top players. Like, I think if you tie in percentage of games played with all NBA teams, not All-Star. All-Star you can, that would be a good idea. But I think if you did statistical categories, you're eligible to, in those statistical categories, and all NBA teams, because it is tied into your Supermax contracts and your deals. I think if they did it where, like, because nobody cares about the role players playing and sitting out. No one cares. But they do care about the stars. So if you say, look, you can't be, if you don't play 80% of your games, you can't be, in one of the three, you can't even be voted on for MVP, defensive player of the year, top 3 NBA teams. I think something like that you're probably going to see, because they're going to have to do something, because it is rampant. I mean, if you look at the top 20 guys, 30 guys in the league, and as far as their percentage of games played right now, it's not great numbers. And I think it's going to come down to that, in my opinion, where it has to be tied for letting the top players, making them play. You're not making them play where you say, well, your contract's not guaranteed if you don't play a certain amount. But I think if you tie it to those top three NBA teams and MVP, these guys will play a little bit more. And don't make it crazy where they got to play 90 or 95%. But I think 80% is a nice little number where, look, if they're gonna take 15 games off a year, it's not great, but I could see that. But like when you get Kawhi Leonard playing 54% of his game, where he's not really hurt, he's just resting. That's a tough one to swallow.
It is. I think a deal gets done.
It's too much money.
I don't think they'll get too down the line. Yeah, it's too much money. But all right, LeBron's the scoring leader. I'm not sure if you tuned in for that. It was, on a fadeaway, iconic. Congratulations to LeBron James. It's no small feat. Like I said earlier, I think his longevity is probably the biggest thing in his career as a superstar that he has accomplished. But it seemed like AD wasn't a fan, bro. I'm not sure if you've seen that whole blow up, but right when the whole crowd stood to its feet, AD sat down. Looked like he was frustrated. I mean, and look, there was some. I would be a little bit frustrated. I know it was LeBron's night, but they had no incentive to win that game. Like we're not valuing winning. It's just all about LeBron's night. I get it to an extent, but you still want winning basketball. And I think AD was quoted as saying he was just disappointed that they weren't winning the game and playing well. But he looked like he was clearly over the shenanigans of that whole night, bro.
Yeah, I don't know, Bogues. It's true. Everyone's making a huge deal of it, and I don't know, man.
It was glaring, bro. I mean, come on, dude. The whole you can't hide behind the fact that it's because we lost. Like the whole crowd was up celebrating. Like he was the only dude that was like, "Nah, I'm just going to sit down." Like he wanted to make a scene about it. It was clear.
Yeah, I mean.
You think it was just random? He just needed a rest. His legs were sore. He just wanted to sit down right as LeBron hit that jumper and the whole crowd was standing up.
I think most of these guys are narcissists, and I think most of these relationships in the NBA are fake as fuck. And I think they just care. And I think they care about themselves for the most part. Now, there are some really good guys in the league that are genuine when they like people and they really push for you. But I think especially when you get into the superstar deal, guys that are top 15, top 20 in the league, and they play with other top 15, top 20 players in the league. I think that, I think maybe that it might be his way. He just sat and he doesn't really care. Either way, he's like, all right, let's get it over with. I've been hearing about this. Look, because I've been hearing about this shit for fucking the last few months too. Like, I'm tired of it too. Now, look, it is what it is. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if he's happy, he's sad, or pissed, or whatever. He's over it, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It's not really a big deal to me. I think the scoring title, besides maybe the home run hitting title in baseball, is the most iconic, stat to have in all of pro sports. I think it's ridiculous. It's ridiculously tough to get. I didn't think it was going to be broken in my lifetime. It's funny though, like the guy fucking breaks the record, and like it's not, hey, great job, LeBron. Well, it is, because a lot of people are kissing his ass with it. But like, you think you would just be happy for the guy. Hey, look, he scored. I'm not a huge LeBron guy as far as the shenanigans that's around him, but like, I mean, that feat was ridiculous and it's great, and it should be all about him on that one. But it's funny. It's like Jordan's the GOAT. Like it's all you hear.
The never-ending arguments,
like,
bro.
Instead,
never-ending arguments.
Okay, let's have those arguments, but like, I don't even care about the argument. But like that night, just give it to him.
It's his moment.
Like, hey, look.
Yeah, it's his moment. I totally agree. And I'm not. I'm the same boat as you. I'm probably more slided towards MJ because I'm an '80s baby. MJ was I've said this a million times. Like pinnacle of my childhood, and MJ was a guy. Gatorade commercials, the changing hands in the air, but. You can't take away what LeBron's done, and he should be celebrated for his moment, whether you don't like him or not. And the whole comparing to Kobe and then to Kareem and then to this and then to that, and it's just like, oh man, just let him enjoy his moment. So I totally agree there. We've got to plow through. We've got a lot to get through. All right, the Cam Thomas fined for saying no homo. You got a 30 or 40K fine for that, pro. But if they put a microphone in a locker room, players would be broke overnight. If going to continue to do that. Just my 2 cents of how much I've heard that word. If you said anything that was borderline, you just hear that word thrown out constantly. So that's an interesting one for the NBA. Pretty big fine there. The Grizzlies one, bro. I want to touch on this. We missed this last week, but the Grizzlies got into it with the Pacers about 10 days ago, pro, and in fact on January 29th. And acquaintances of Grizzlies star Ja Morant aggressively confronted members of the Pacers traveling party near the team's bus in the loading area of FedEx Forum. And later, someone in a slow-moving SUV, which Morant was riding in, pro. I'm going to say that again. Ja Morant was riding in this slow-moving SUV, trained a red laser on them. Now, two members of the traveling party who spoke, they didn't know if the laser was attached to a gun, but they believed it was. A Pacer security guard in the loading area at the time remarked, that's 100% a gun. There was an NBA investigation, video surveillance, blah, blah, blah. There was a situation that arose.
We didn't talk about this last week, folks?
Not much. No, not to this extent.
Oh, okay, I thought we did. Okay.
No, I don't think we did. I think we text back and forth, didn't we? Yeah, we text back and forth. I'm not sure. If we did, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure we didn't last week.
Let's talk about it. I
think I had on the run sheet.
Yeah, let's do it.
But I think we spoke. I think we spoke about the scuffle on the court, but we didn't speak about the red dot laser that was pointed on somebody.
Yeah.
With Ja Morant in the car. Now, as far as I can see, nothing was really done to Ja Morant as far as a fine or whatnot. But this is, and you know, I've seen players talk about this online. I never understood the mystique of, well, I can't be a hypocrite. Players wanting to be, you know, quote unquote gangsters, right? When I was 16, 17, being of European descent, I knew some people that were, you know, you call them heavies, or people that were involved in nefarious activities of European descent, you know, gold chain, nice belt buckle, well-dressed, slick back hair, you know, mafia-esque type people. I had friends of friends or knew people of that ilk that were, you know, obviously doing something illegal to make their money. And I thought it was cool at 16, 17. You know, I thought, you know, this guy's got a flashy car, he's got a Rolex, like, oh man, I'd love to be that guy one day. And then I grew up, you know, got 19, 20, 21, 22, and was like, no, that's fucking stupid, right? The amount of NBA players that are 25, 30 years old still that think that's a cool lifestyle is just beyond me, man. It's really, I don't understand. What you've done to get to the NBA is harder than what anyone, you know, whether you're dealing drugs or involved in some other activities that are illegal, making a shitload of money. It's much harder. You've already broke the barrier. You're already that guy. So I always kind of struggle to understand why you'd want to surround yourself. I understand there's childhood friends and bonds, but it's only going to get you in trouble, and you've got everything at your feet. You've got everything you want to buy, you can buy. Everywhere in the world you want to travel, you can travel to. You're experiencing the best food in the world, the best this, the best that, the best services. Everyone's bowing to you, and you still want to be, oh yeah, but you better not mess with me because I'm a gangster. And you're like, why? I scratch my head, pro, but shining a red dot at a team bus, probably not the best way to go about it.
Oh boy, I mean that is a subject that we got to talk about. It's stupid for sure. Like, you got all this riding, but these players, they just have a hard time shedding this stuff. Now, like, people start saying about he's really not like that. It's all for show. You know, he grew up in like a great environment and all that stuff. I don't know much about Ja Morant, to be honest, but he's got to smarten the fuck up, because he's probably going to be the
face of the league, one of the faces.
He's going to be the face of Nike.
Yeah.
He's going to be the face of Nike. He's probably, outside of LeBron, he's probably going to be, now that Kyrie left, you know, got fired, whatever, Ja's probably going to be the face of it. And I understand that, like, look, you got friends and you got acquaintances, but, like, they got to understand, rolling with you, there's a level of professionalism that, like it reflects on you quickly, especially stuff like this. This isn't getting in a little bit of a scuffle. This isn't like, you know, being high maintenance and asking for tickets or, you know, hotel rooms on the road or whatever. This is like major stuff, and could, you know, if it comes out now, I've heard it was investigated and they ruled out the gun, but that's not confirmed. But if it is, like, if I'm the NBA and that was legit, even if they were just fucking with you know, even if they had no intent to shoot or whatever and just want to fuck with, I'd suspend Ja for the whole year. That's it. Like, it's not even close to me. Like, at what point is the circus gonna end? You know, like like there's different stuff when stuff comes up, a fight or something. I get it. Like you can't really plan for that all the time. But that's your guy. You're in a car with somebody who points a laser. Now, if I had to guess, it was probably going to be one of those lasers that like, that people fuck with people with and they just shoot people with, like the laser itself, not a gun, but who knows?
You sure, Pro?
I'm not sure.
Car full of gangsters just carrying a laser pointer?
I'm not sure. I am not sure. But like,
regardless, just the stupidity of it, he should get a fine and suspension.
Like to me, if it was found out to be a gun, it's a year. I am not putting up with that shit. That is there's too much money. The BRI is going to be about, $8.2 billion. It's a lot of fucking money at stake for this league. You really want to go down that road and that's the thing. Like when you loosen the reins on professionalism, how players dress, getting away with stuff, not really like coming down hard on players, and allowing them to do basically whatever they want to a certain degree, it starts to trickle down. We talk about all this other stuff that the league's dealing with like load management and not playing and how players treat people, like, and then you go with this. Like at some point, people are going to put their hands up. Now, it hasn't really had a lot of legs. It had legs for a couple of days, that story. I haven't heard anything about it in a few days. Yeah,
his friend got suspended for a year.
Yeah.
That allegedly, I guess, shunned the laser. So he's got a 1-year suspension, and then the rest is just being la, let's just move on. Look at this. Look over here. The All-Star game's coming up, guys, because like you said, he's the face of the league. But it's bad. It's just stupidity. I hope players get over this whole I've got a gun, I'm a gangster. It's just silliness to me, but interesting one to note. All right, let's get on to our Aussie Watch real quick. Follow Dabble, the social betting experience where you can follow anyone from your best mate to me, Andrew Bogut, all one word. Go on and give me a follow, copy bets, and jump into the banter channel to talk about anything, NBA, NBL, any other sport. You can jump in there and go back and forth. Download the app at your app store and have a dabble. Dabble socially. Make sure you gamble responsibly. And we thank Dabble for being the partner of the Bogues podcast. And this will be the Aussie Watch on behalf of Dabble. So we're going to get on with this. Ben Simmons, one game, coming off bench, as we said earlier, which is a big wow for me. 4.6 points this week, 5 rebounds, and 4.3 assists per game. So he had a couple of games, not one. Dyson Daniels is injured, and I can confirm I checked, he's still injured. I didn't make a mistake again. Daly, decent week for him, got in the rotation a little bit, 3.5 points and 4 assists a game this week. Paddy, probably the worst week he's had this season. 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 2 for 12 from the 3-point line. Life's a bit harder, I guess, when, KD and Kyrie are in that lineup for Paddy. You're not off the ball as much, not as much open looks. And a little tidbit for our listeners, the sliding door moment, Pro. A couple of seasons ago when Paddy was a free agent, the Golden State Warriors reached out to yours truly and were asking me to get a hold of Paddy to get him to sign with the Warriors for that mid-level. And he ended up taking the deal with Brooklyn, thinking he had a better championship chance. So in hindsight, would have had 1 chip last season with Golden State and potentially another one this season if they make it. So big sliding doors moment there for Patty Mills. Jock Landale, 5.6 points, 5 rebounds, 15 minutes a game. Back in the rotation officially, Pro, so good to see him back. They started him at the 4 spot a couple of games ago, didn't do so well, but he's still coming off the bench and getting those 15 minutes a night. Giddy, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and not the player of the week for once, Pro. Not the player of the week. Wait for it. Thibault, 3 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal in his final week for Philly. He'll help Portland there. Great trade. Ingles, another quiet week. 4 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists off the bench. Still 2 of 8 from threes. Three's been a bit more inconsistent since he's found his legs. Jack White, DNP. And first time, Rogue Bogues, Aussie Player of the Week. Now, I must apologise. This guy's been healthy for a couple of weeks, and for some reason, when I was looking at the stat sheets, I didn't notice he was starting straight away, and I was looking at the bench, and he still wasn't on there, and I missed him. So apologies to everyone, including Pro, for giving me shit on it. But he has been playing fantastic, Pro.
Oh yeah,
he deserves the Aussie Player of the Week. 20.75 points a game, 5 rebounds per game, 2.75 assists per game. Absolutely on fuego from the 3-point line, Pro. 11 for 22 this week, 43% for the year. This is a guy that labeled as a non-3-point shooter early in his career, inconsistent, kind of get a late hand up. 43% in the year and 11-22 the last week. Well-deserved. Josh Green's having a phenomenal year, Pro.
He really is. I mean, it's true development that sort of what he's been through, because where he started to where he is now. D-League, Summer League, D-League, doing, just sort of sticking it out. Shot got better. Working with Peter Patton over there is one of the better shooting coaches in the league. And look, he's done everything he needs to do, and he just he's finally busted out of his shell. He's playing great, and now with extra wing spots opening up, with Dorian Finney-Smith being traded, and not really a lot going on that bench, I think that he has a great opportunity. Like you said, he averaged 20 points a game last week. He just sort of keeps coming at you, and he just makes simple plays. Straight line drive, open shot, coming off a handoff. Just a good player, playing hard, playing tough, and he's perfect what they need. And he's fun to watch, and it'll be interesting. Now, I mean, his job gets so much easier now with Kyrie and Luka in the same lineup when he gets in there, because all he has to do is run to a spot, and they'll find him, and it'll be. It's great to see, man. It's great to see his development. It's great to see him growing as a player. Yeah, it's awesome, and I'm glad you sort of saw that he was healthy, because I got a couple of people. I didn't really give a fuck.
Well, thanks for letting me know. Thanks for letting me know, man. Jeez, let me know via social media when I get railed on.
I'm usually eyeing some food stuff on Google while you do the Aussie Watch. So I fucking I got 5 DMs and I'm like, oh wait. There's something I can bust Bogues' balls about. I'm like, great. Yeah. And I didn't even notice that you were saying he was hurt. So I was like, yeah, let me do this shit. So I'm
going to fire the guy that does our scripts, bro. I'm going to fire him immediately. He's gone. He won't be here next week. But great job, Josh Green. He's basically solidifying that starting spot in that national team, I believe, the way he's playing. So looking forward to seeing him suit up. NBL Australia, we had our awards night last week, bro. A bit of controversy with that. MVP, Xavier Cooks. Congratulations to Xavier. A lot of angry Perth Wildcat fans. Thought Bryce Cotton should have got it, but their Perth Wildcats didn't even make it out of the plane, pro. So you can't give MVP to a guy that's not even in the finals, in my opinion. But Xavier Cooks got that. Coach of the Year was 40 up in Cairns. It was well deserved. I think it was a close race, in my opinion, between New Zealand, Cairns, and Sydney. To me, I think, as I've said before, I think Chase should have been up there. It was incredible. He finished a distant third in Coach of the Year voting, pro, and he's had one of the most successful 2-season stints in NBL history, top 10 if I'm not wrong, in back-to-back seasons with a win-loss, including finals. So I think a bit more respect due there. He's had a hell of a year. Probably should have been a bit higher than that. Defensive Player of the Year, Antonius Cleveland with the Adelaide 36ers. He probably is the best defender in the league, even though they didn't make the playoffs, the finals, or the six. He's a phenomenal defender. Most improved player. First guy to win. Might be the first guy to win back-to-back most improved players in Keanu Pinder. They gave him that. I think a lot of it was to do with that he fell out of MVP voting because of an injury, but he deserves some sort of awards. They've given him that again, but deserved as well. He's had a phenomenal year. Sixth Man of the Year, Bobby Brown Jr., much deserved. And next gen was Wardenberg up in Cairns. So I think most of the awards, in my opinion, were pretty spot on. Coach of the Year could have went either way. I think there should have been some more votes for Chase there, but the way he goes about it, probably, other coaches are voting at times, and they probably, to spite him, give him a 0. So that's the way that goes. Finals preview, pro. So great finish to the final day. As we were live last week during game one, during the Adelaide-Melbourne game, the Sydney versus Perth game was next. It meant nothing for the Sydney Kings, pro. We'd wrapped up 1. Perth had to beat the Kings by more than 11, I believe. And they beat him by 12 or 13, I think it was. So came down to the last shot. The Kings, it was funny because Perth were up by, let's say, 10 or 11 or 12, and the Kings come down, and with 8 seconds left, everyone's like, whoa, as he's shooting a shot. When you look at the scoreline, you're like, what the hell's going on? But the percentage mattered. So I knocked the Plains early on, but I must say it created these games that usually don't mean nothing actually meant something. And Perth qualified for that 6th spot to scrape into the Plains by less than a percentage point, pro. So it was a really exciting finish to the season and made those games fun. So now we have, by the way, we had Tasmania and Cairns. Tasmania beat Cairns in the 3-4. They went straight through. They've played New Zealand already. That is 1-0 to New Zealand. And Cairns then went on to play the winner of Southeast Melbourne and Perth. So Southeast Melbourne absolutely choking that game. They were up by 12 at the start of the 4th quarter. They end up losing to Perth. Perth just run over the top of them. They lose that game. Never should have lost it. Quite unbelievable choke, actually. And then Perth go on to play Cairns yesterday, and Cairns just beat the absolute crap out of them in Cairns. So now Cairns have the privilege of playing the Sydney Kings. Game 1 is this Wednesday in Sydney. Game 2 Friday in Cairns. And if Game 3 is needed, it'll be Sunday in Sydney. And as I said, New Zealand's up 1-0 already against Tassie. Game 2 coming up this week, and then Game 3 towards the end of the week. I'm not sure those exact dates, but I think it's contra, so I think it might be Thursday, Saturday for those ones, or Thursday, Sunday. I'm sorry. So, been a really good season. Top 4's wrapping up, pro. So make sure you wake up early and watch the Kings hopefully win another championship, eh?
Bogues, hey, playoff bonuses for Australia? Do they do that?
Not from the league, unfortunately. It's generally negotiated in player contracts with the club. So we have a bunch of players that have finals, semi-finals, and finals bonuses in their contract, and I'm okay with that. I love incentivizing winning. That's the way it should be. But the league is not like the NBA where we get bonuses for making the finals. So knock NBL, I think you should reward teams for making the finals of some sort of bonus. I think it's the right thing to do. So maybe we'll start a petition and get going, but yeah, a little bit different to the NBA, pro. Yeah,
it's funny in China, they actually give you bonuses for winning games, like and all that. But it just got me thinking about my guy who coached as head coach, American guy, head coach in China. He said literally in China, especially in the playoffs, both owners come down and literally just pay off referees, and whoever pays them the most, they get more calls. So I just got me thinking about playoff bonuses and stuff. So yeah, that's where my mind was heading towards. But no, it's hey, look, playoff time's great, and in any level, any league, and it's interesting. I'm definitely gonna come watch and at least stream it and watch it, see what I got. You got to give me the schedule, whatever. You know how I am with remembering shit.
Google, motherfucker.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah, no, it's cool.
It's good. All right, useful, useless. We'll plow through these. We're almost at an hour and a half, so we don't want to go too much longer. Useful or useless, pro. So this is Silas's comments that you were referring to. They are not giving effort on the defensive end. They are not getting after it like they're supposed to. They're not getting into their man and fighting over the screens and helping each other. They are not doing what they are supposed to do. And he said that very angrily, as you know, pro. Leading on from that quote, Stephen Silas has the worst record of any head coach with at least 200 NBA games coached at 24%, pro. Useful or useless?
Well, useless because his team sucks. I mean, first of all, yeah, his team sucks. I mean, and he knew that going in. Well, he didn't know that going in. He thought he was going to have James Harden and those guys, and then they traded him all away, and got all those picks and stuff like that. So I think that if you're on a team that's like a mid-level team and he had that record, I would say it would be useful. But that team from day one has been fucking awful. So I would say it's useless on that end. But also, they're not giving effort on the defensive end. They're not going after it like they're supposed to. Well, if you go to an AAU tournament, do you ever see guys go after it like they should on the defensive end? So what do you expect? And they're an AAU team. So no. But I'd say it's useless because of the roster he's got. What do you think, Bogues?
Because of the team. Yeah, look, I think it's a useful stat to say, shit, out of 200 games minimum, he's got the worst record. And he's stuck in a rock and a hard place. Like if you honestly bench some of those young stars, you're going to get in trouble by the front office, right? Yeah. So what's he supposed to do? Well, where's his leverage? I mean, I would die on my own sword, and we hear about this so much. If you listen to the front office too much, you're still going to get fired if you're not good. And he's going to get fired regardless of what's going on. So I'd rather die on my own sword. So I'd say it's useful in that fact, but yeah, their team sucks. So I totally agree with that. All right, players with 1,000 points, 50 steals, and 50 blocks this season. There's one.
1,000 points, 50 steals, 50 blocks.
50 blocks.
I'm going to say Giannis.
Or over.
Giannis?
No, you never get this one. Shea.
Oh, okay.
That's the reason I put it in there, because he's been in useful, useless a couple of weeks in a row, and he has some unique stats. But that's one I did not expect from Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. 1,000 plus points, 50 plus steals, and 50 plus blocks. Useful, useless?
Useful for sure. I mean, it just shows you how sort of multi-talented the kid is, and across the board, he just brings a lot of talent and a lot of impact in the game, not just scoring. So I would say that's definitely useful.
Useful. Yeah, I like quirky stats like this, and I would not have picked him with my top 20. Definitely would not. I would have been just Jaren Jackson Jr., Giannis, Brook Lopez, just trying to throw. But that's impressive. All right, trades broken this week, pro. Your guy, Woj, 11, Shams, 10. Useful or useless?
I say it's useful. He's got more guys leaking to him he had one more guy leaking to him than Shams had. So I had no idea.
Shams is getting there though, bro. He's one away.
Oh, dude,
he's one away.
No doubt. You can only this stuff. You can only stay on top for so long. You can, but there's always some young guy that's coming in, and it's not a talent thing. It's not a talent thing in the sense that like basketball, like playing or whatever. If you just have more people snitching to you and leaking to you, you're gonna win it. And but Shams is look.
Yeah, but there's also incentives to do that, and how they do the incentives. There's been rumors of cash payments. There's been rumors of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So there's an art form to it, bro. It's not as easy as just like
cash payments. I never heard that. I've heard the whole I scratch your back, you scratch mine deal, but I didn't hear the whole cash payment deal. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
I've heard. Yeah. If you're a nothing agent, you need to get some info out there, or get some info back, or get some pro, or it's interesting.
Yeah, hey, look, it goes to show that it goes to show that sort of closed it in for sure. 11-10. Who the fuck takes the time to like figure out who broke it earlier? I think Pat Beverly tweeted out.
Oh yeah,
that was fucking hilarious. That was hilarious. I didn't even pay attention.
He said Shams is catching Woj or something like that.
I thought it was Woj. I thought it was Woj beating Shams because it was the Allen Iverson. It was the Iverson Ty Lue deal, and I thought it was Woj stepping over Shams. I thought, maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea, but I thought it was funny. But coming from Beverly, that was pretty fun.
Yeah, I think it's a useless stat, but they're the two main guys breaking stories. Last one, the 76ers were 10-0 when Matisse Thybulle played 20 minutes this season.
I think it's useful. I think the guy, look, his shot is getting a little bit better. I mean, obviously that's a frustrating thing. His offense is frustrating, but I mean, he definitely brings athleticism, defense. Somebody that plays hard. I think it's definitely useful for sure.
I think small sample size. It's kind of quirky. 10-0 when he plays more than 20 minutes.
But they didn't play much.
I think it's useless.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's too small of a sample size. It's 10-0. It's one of those unique quirky stats. But I love Matisse. But useless to me. All right, fact or fake news? I'm going first. I got one for you. Does LeBron's record get broken in our lifetimes, pro? Fact or fake news? LeBron's record will get broken in our lifetime.
Nice.
Fact or fake news?
I say fake news. I think it's going to be really hard to stay healthy that long. I think it's going to be really hard for somebody to be at that level scoring it and stay healthy. I mean, the guy has stayed. It's unbelievable that the guy was able to stay healthy. I mean, he hasn't had one really major injury, in his career, and then think about it, think about any player that you've ever watched in basketball at that age from 35 to 39 that does the things that he does athletically. I've never seen it. And I've never seen a guy get that lucky with injury stuff, not being hurt over really majorly hurt throughout his, most of his career. So I don't think anyone's going to break it. I think it's going to be really tough.
Fact, I don't think anyone's going to. No one's going to break it in our lifetime. So fake news. But what do you got?
All right, Bogues. Couple. I'll get two. You heard about Westbrook and what's coming out in the media with LA. What they're bringing out with him with being the vampire of the locker room. They called him when they traded him. Fact or fake news? He was a vampire in the locker room. Fact or fake news? In your opinion?
Fake news. Fake news. I think he, from the people that I've spoken to that have played with him, they love him. They said off the floor, he's a fantastic teammate. He is intense. He will have unpleasant conversations with you at times because just the way the way he's wired on the court. But they said as far as the way he goes about things off the floor, even with arena workers and staff that people forget about, I heard he's first class. And I think this is all just sour grapes because of the Lakers season. This is so clutch / ESPN / LeBron. That's why we were bad. That was the reason why we're not going to make the playoffs this season. That's what it read like to me. So I don't buy it. I think he's been hard done by. Look, he has his issues from time to time and problems, but this is ridiculous how much they're going after him. He's still a very serviceable player. He's still going to be a Hall of Famer. And I don't remember a guy getting this much flack. So much so that I believe ESPN put out a post, that very post that you spoke about, that was ESPN, right? They were deleting positive comments off the post, Pro. That people were like, nah, ESPN, like, F you, this is bullshit. Russ is a good dude, blah, 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 blah. They were deleting positive comments, man. That's noted online. People can search for that. So I'm not buying it. Total fake news.
Yeah, I think it's fake news. From what I've heard in the locker room, no one's really had a problem. I mean, guys like him. Look, you may not like the way that guy plays. I mean, he's not. His style isn't for everybody. I do respect the fact that he goes at your throat, 24/7, and the guy's just angry 24/7 on the court. I like that. Do I like his game? No, I don't. But I do like that. And I do think that, like, he was a scapegoat for a lot of this stuff. And look, they traded him. It's not like they traded for him. It's not like he wanted to be there and they signed him in free agency and there was all these promises of what's going to happen. They traded for him and they didn't figure out the best way to sort of use him until later and all that stuff. I think it's bullshit. I think it's fake news. I don't think it was a vampire. Hey, look, was he moody from time to time about the winning, losing, and then dealing with that stuff? I'm sure. But who isn't, right? So that I definitely did. Yeah. All right, last one because I know we got to go. Bogues. Right now, currently, Oklahoma City Thunder is like, they're right now sitting in 11th place. Does the Oklahoma City Thunder will make the play-in round at least this year? Fact or fake news?
Oh, tough one. Tough one. Let me pull up the standings real quick.
11?
Utah. They're in 10 at the moment. 10? They're in 10 at the moment, Pro. Yes, as of today they do. Yeah. They've won 2 in a row. They're half a game against Utah, up on Utah. Okay. I think they do. I'll say fact. I think they got more incentive to get there. I think it's useful for them to get there more than it is Utah. Utah's going to probably have a whole different team in the next couple of years with all their picks. And I think Utah's Oklahoma City 2 years ago, if that makes sense, with what they're trying to do. Portland's a sneaky one because they can get hot with Dame, but they're just up and down like a yo-yo. I think OKC are decent. They're solid. They play well together. I watched that Lakers game, obviously, and they played pretty well. I think they have an incentive to get their young guys at least experience that playoff atmosphere, and I will say fact, they're going to make it. They're going to make the 10. Yeah,
me too. I think they are. Look, if it was close, if they were in the top 3 of the worst teams, I'd say go for it, but look, they've got too much. In my opinion, I mean, anything could happen, right? But I think it's too much room to cover as far as like losing games and getting to that spot. And they're playing so well, like they're playing everybody tough. And them in Orlando have been fun to watch, like having them watching them play teams because they play hard as hell. They're in it for each other. They seem like they got good guys. I definitely think they're gonna gun for it. I think they're gonna get it. I think they're gonna get in for sure. So I say fact.
Those two teams are the prototype of how you tank, Pro. In my opinion, you look at how it should be done while still being competitive. I like the way they've gone about it. They haven't blatantly just sold their soul for losses. They still value playing the right way in their losses, and they're competitive. You can't. If I was a fan of both those teams, no matter that we're bad and our record's bad, I'd still show up to watch because I can see the method to the madness. Whereas maybe the Spurs and a few other teams, it's questionable at times. So congrats to both those teams. All right, that wraps up this week. Big game for the Kings coming up. Make sure you get out there if you're in Sydney for game 1, if you're in Cairns for game 2. Same goes for if you're in Tasmania later on in the week and back in New Zealand if there's a game 3. So see you all out there. Thank you, Pro. See you next week.
All right, guys. See you next week. Thank you.
Let's get Rogue.